sympathize with black folks of how we feel, that you understand. You don't understand. I was raised in Dallas and in California. I was raised in Dallas where we had Black History Month. We did programs, we said speeches. Black History Month here in Columbia County, what do you teach? What do you teach? I ain't talked to nobody before I got this microphone. What do y'all teach in Columbia County for Black history? We are slaves, we are ugly, we are nappy-headed, and we ain't shit. That's what you teach. That's what you teach. Oh, and because a couple of non-black folks happen to like you, don't think you in the in crowd, because when your white daughter comes home and says, I like this black boy, and you tell her no, because he's black, there is a problem. He got straight A's, mama. I don't care. It don't look good. But mama, he going to UGA. I don't care. It don't look good. You, parent, that tells your child that are the same one that put his knee down on George Floyd in my face. You're the same one. You're the same one. And guess what, y'all? Guess what? I went to a predominantly white high school in San Mateo, California. I was one of the first black cheerleaders. The first black. I got an issue with that. We still should not be on the first of nothing. We should not be. Our babies are making good grades. They are smart, they are respectful, they might hold the door open for everything. What's wrong with us, y'all? What's wrong with your white babies dating us? Oh, I like me a good white boy too today. I can tell you that now. I'm here to say it. And one thing that never changes with me is not going to change with my daughter, and I'm hoping that it changes with non-black parents who choose to bring home a black boy or girl for you to date because they're good to them. One thing that never changes with me, I don't change who I am. I still have to put a perm on my hair if I want it straight every day. I still got to get a detangler brush to comb these naps out. And one thing you cannot take away from me, how my parents raised me, my kindness, my respectfulness, my love for humankind. And I am not a respecter of persons. If you my friend, you my friend. If you Indian, white, black, pink, orange, and if you look at my Facebook page, Kimberly Jordan, you'll see several nationalities of people on there. And some of them people have been my friends for over 30 years. I can give you a story about each and every one of them. Each and every one of them were genuinely friends. I have white friends who have mixed children, who have had to disown their families because they don't want their half-black kids at the Thanksgiving table. That's the same one that put his knee down on George Floyd. The same one that shot Ahmaud. The same one. We should be able to wear, we black people and everybody else too, whatever we want to wear. We should be able to conduct ourselves in such a manner where we always get respect. Slave days are over, y'all. That's why we are out here now. That's why we're out here now. I don't condone violence. I just had to cut off a friendship of 20 years last night on Facebook. I posted and said I cut him off because he called me with laughter, saying that he was happy because he just looted Walgreens. Got 2 buggies full. What the heck you gonna get from Walgreens anyway? 2 buggies full. But second of all, you happy about it. Dude, this is not why this man lost his life. Not at all. Y'all, I appreciate all of the diversity I see out here. Thank y'all for letting me go over the time talking. But I'm pissed. And everybody that's standing here now, be pissed. With no violence. Be pissed with no violence. Be pissed with no violence.
Alright guys, in just a second, I'm going to turn this microphone over to Mr. Montana. He's going to take us out. Everybody listen up. We're going to go out this gate right here, you see this stop sign over here where it says no parking? We're going out that gate, okay? I need all my pastors in the front, and Mr. Montana's gonna lead us with our chants. Everybody understand? If you need water, we got plenty of it. If you feel like you're about to pass out, tell somebody. Because we got people out here for that. Here we go. Everybody start lining up over here.
The flyer said, if one house in a neighborhood is on fire, the fireman will not come and spray every house. They will only spray the house.
This is our city. So we know that we're not looking to burn bridges, we looking to build them, right? So if your goal here is to disturb the peace, you can leave right now. You can leave right now. We have resources here that are going to be distributed on MLK Ave for the most marginalized, and that's our goal here. We're here to build community, we're not here to burn it. So if that's your MO, you can take a lead. Right on. Beside me here, I have my brother Reverend Keon Jackson. He's going to articulate a prayer to take us into that space of peace, love, and solidarity. So can we ask for a moment of silence that he'll initiate once I hand him the megaphone? Right on. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let's have a moment of silence for George Floyd, folks that we've lost, maybe members of your own family, to police brutality and systematic racism. God, we ask you right now that this spirit of liberation, which is the reason why we gather here today, flow through each and every one of us. We ask right now that you keep those who have assembled under your hedge of protection. We ask that our message not be jaded by folks who do not stand with us. And we ask that as we go forth and march and proclaim what it is that you have told each and every one of us to proclaim, liberation and true justice for all, that you may slowly begin to deliver this city and the wider nation from systematic racism that continues to plague not just this city, but the world. For us to truly understand that to be black means something. That's right. To be black means that you are inherently beautiful. That's right. To understand that no matter what deity that we pray to, worship, he or she is indeed black. We love you and we honor you. And I ask that we conclude this prayer, whatever language, whatever creed that you conclude your prayer to. For me, amen. Amen. Oh, so we got African folks in the crowd, right? So let's get the libations going then. Let's go. We ask the ancestors to protect us in the space. Ashe? We ask the ancestors to guide us, to lead us, to make sure they fuel us in the continuous fight in the marathon as we proceed. Ashe? We ask the enemies to make themselves known so that we are vigilant and we are prepared. Ashe? And above all, we ask that we keep the peace today. Ashe? 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 Here with me, I have Sade Monet. She's a Howard University student. She's going to articulate a sentiment by Councilman Denise Ridley. Give her a hand, please.
To my brothers and sisters fighting for justice, as I watch the news coverage of many unjustified deaths of Black people that have taken place in America, I am saddened and I feel very heavy. I do not have to tell those of you protesting for change how wrong and unjust the actions of some law enforcement officers have been. You know. I do not have to tell you how racially biased practices have gone on this country for years and years. You know. I do not have to tell you that these men did not deserve to die like animals in the street. You know. So instead, today I choose to speak to those who may not understand why there is so much unrest throughout the country. To those who think that slavery was a long time ago and Black Americans should have progressed by now, understand that hundreds of years of slavery was then followed by nearly another 100 years of segregation. And people that lived through those times are still alive today. The lessons that they taught their children are still alive today. The racist individuals who fought against Black people are still alive today. The Black people that staged sit-ins and fought for civil rights are still alive today. Right. And I know because my mother was one of them. So there is no way that you can feel that racism is a thing of the past, because it is very much alive and well. To those minorities who feel that America is a land of the free and choose not to stand up for what is right, understand that these liberties you enjoy are because of the struggles and fights of Black people in America. Right. Black people fought for civil rights, and when President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law, it mentioned nothing about Black people. It protected all from discrimination due to race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. Had my elders not been fighting in the streets for their rights, you would not have yours. As we continue to fight for justice, let us do so in a respectful and peaceful manner. Do not let peaceful protests be damaged by those with ulterior motives. Let us continue to lift up the families impacted by injustice, and let us continue to say the names of those who lost their lives unjustly. Let us contact our federal representatives and demand changes in our judicial system. Let us contact our state representatives and demand changes to laws that allow civilians to become vigilantes. Let us contact our municipal representations to ask them to review the practices of our local police departments. I have already requested documents from the Jersey City Police Department, and they have been cooperative with adhering to my request. Now is the time to work smart, to not give up, and to create real change. May God continue to bless you all. Regards, Denise Ridley. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, brothers and sisters, now we have Pam Johnson, who's a freedom fighter, leader of the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition, who's going to articulate another sentiment regarding a rally that's going to take place tomorrow. So give her a round of applause as well.
Tomorrow we will rally, 4 p.m. at City Hall on the steps, and then we will occupy Pedestrian Plaza in peace, because we're always peaceful people. So don't let what
you see across the television tell you that we are savages or that we are thugs or we are anything that we're not. We're kings and queens. Power to the people. 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 Let's go.
We ain't gonna take too much of your time. We ready to get in the field. Yeah. We're taking it up Ram Hall till we get to MLK Ave. When we get to MLK Ave, we're gonna chant. The chants are gonna be very easy to follow, so I'm not gonna go over them right now. I want y'all passionate. I want y'all engaged. Like I said, we got resources here to give to the community. If anybody needs water or anything like that, you can vocally help yourselves. We also have leaflets with mutual aid programs. Shout out to Solidarity and Mutual Aid in Jersey City who helped organize this rally. Give them a hand. Shout out to all the other comrades, brothers and sisters who were instrumental in helping us put this together. So like I said, our goal here is not to combatively engage the police, but to proactively engage the community. So when you outside on Martin Luther King Ave, and I know a lot of us don't spend too much time over there, I'll be out there in the field. So when you outside, don't be afraid of your brothers and sisters. Engage them, leaflet with them, let them know political education, talk to them, tell them we got their back, tell them we here for them. When we get to the South District Police Station, I want all the people of color to stand across the street from the police station. I want all the allies who are here to show solidarity, to stand on the same side of the police station and put yourselves on the line as protection for the people who have been facing persecution for hundreds and hundreds of years. George! Floyd! 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 As we march in solidarity with the folks in Minneapolis and the folks across We remember those who've gone before us under the guise and the tentacles of this racist America. We demand justice, and we demand it now. We demand justice, and we demand it now. No justice! No peace! 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 Folks have died at the hands of racism because this country believes that black people don't have rights. White silence is violence.
White silence is violence!
No justice! No peace! 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 George! Floyd! 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 George! George! Floyd! George! Floyd! George! Floyd! George! Floyd! Eric! Gardner! Eric! Gardner! Eric! Gardner! Eric! Gardner! Eric! Gardner! Gardner! If black lives go George! Floyd! George! Floyd! No justice! No peace! 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 No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! You want peace? Give us justice! You want peace? Give us justice! No justice! No peace!
I'm not sure.
No justice! No peace! No peace! No justice! 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 No peace! We are coming against violence, police brutality, racism, colorism, pigmentocracy. Black lives matter, period. I can't breathe. 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 No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
George.
Floyd.
George.
Floyd.
George.
Floyd.
Eric.
Gardner.
Trayvon.
Floyd.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Racism has to go. 1619 to 2020, 401 years of racism, colorism, Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Hands up! 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 Don't shoot! It's a shame we even have to say that. Say it again. Hands up! Don't shoot! 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 Hands up! Don't shoot!
Talk this shit.
What do we want? What do we want? Justice! What do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do you want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! No justice!
No peace.
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 What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
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 Hands up!
Don't shoot. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do you want it?
Now.
George!
Floyd.
George!
Floyd.
George!
Floyd.
Eric!
Gardner.
Eric!
Gardner.
Eric!
Gardner.
Trayvon!
Martin.
Brianna!
Taylor.
Brianna!
Taylor.
No justice!
No peace.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Our goal is to build community, not destroy it. Racism already does that. No justice!
No peace.
No justice!
No peace.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do you want it?
Now.
What do you want?
Justice.
When do you want it?
Now.
George!
Floyd.
George!
Floyd.
Eric!
Gardner.
Eric!
Gardner.
Trayvon!
Martin.
Okay. Check him out.
I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
I got cold water. No, cold water.
Hands up!
Don't shoot.
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 No justice!
No peace.
No justice!
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Keon, what's good, my guy?
No peace.
No justice!
No peace.
No justice!
No peace.
No justice, no peace.
No justice. No peace.
No justice,
No peace.
no justice.
down Martin Luther King Drive.
This our drive.
Let's remember his dream. Let's remember his dream. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Hands up! Don't shoot! 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 Whose street? Our street. Whose street? Our street. Hands up, don't shoot. 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 No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Hands up! Don't shoot! We come in peace. Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! We come in peace. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Solidarity with Minneapolis, and in memory of those who have lost their lives to police brutality, we come in peace, commanding justice. For without justice, there will be no peace. No justice. 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 No peace. What do you want? Justice. What do you want it? Now. Whose street? Our street. Whose street? Our street. Whose street? Our street. I can't breathe. Our street. Whose street? Our street. I can't breathe. 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 No justice.
No peace. No justice. No peace.
No peace!
No peace. No peace. No peace. Don't shoot. Don't shoot.
Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. What do you want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. Trayvon. Martin. George. Floyd. Eric. Breonna. Taylor. We come in peace.
I gave my whole roommate a ready to send you. It's called
Walk with us! Walk with us! Walk with us!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could kind of die stuff. I feel like this shit.
Why we gonna turn on? If you turn on, we ain't gonna wait. No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. Hands up, don't shoot. 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 Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. George Floyd. George Floyd. Eric. Garner. Trayvon. Martin. Breonna. Taylor. What do we want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Who streets? Our streets. Who streets? Our streets. Who streets? Our streets. You already know our shit. Black lives matter. 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 With the people, man. Move on. Coming in peace. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. We come in peace. We come in peace. If I get one of those shits, you take out. What do we want? Justice. What do you want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. What do we want it? Now. Hands up. No shoot. Hands up. No shoot. Hands. Yeah, let them know. Hands up. No shoot. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. Thank you. We worked too hard to get to the point. We need allies. Outside, if you are under the flag, let's go line up on the side of the policing. All allies. All allies.
Come on, my black brothers.
All allies.
Organized right now.
Black, come on, black folks, stand back right here. All allies, let's have them line up right here.
Line up, everybody, come on. All my black brothers and sisters, come on.
If you are not black, identifying, move over here. It means something to be an ally. That means you're willing to put your life on the line. Come on, line up over here. Line up right here in front of the police officer. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Allies. Let's go.
There you go. There you go. That's how you use your privilege. That's how you use your privilege.
Damn right. Black folks, back up. Black folks, back up. We need to make sure you're protected. All allies to the front. All allies to the front. All allies to the front. Black folks, back up. Black folks, back up. Black folks. My vanilla brothers and sisters, come up front. They listen to you. My vanilla brothers and sisters, come up front. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Back up! Back up! Back up! All my banana brothers and sisters, to the right. You are allies with me. Come on. Let me come to you. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Trayvon! Trayvon! Brianna! Brianna! Eric! Eric! Hands up!
Don't shoot.
All black folks to the back, please. Allies to the front.
Yes.
We got a lot of people. Black lives! Black lives! Black lives! If we don't matter, nobody does. Ain't no such thing as no blue lives.
Talk your shit.
You can take off your uniform here. I can't take off my skin color.
Talk your shit. Talk your shit. Man, shoot.
Don't shoot! 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 What do we want? Justice! We want it now! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! There's a dire need for police reform. We come in peace. We come in peace. Can I have
Now you can't say it.
Don't be coming up on me like that. What's up,
Listen. We're here. Because too many folks have been killed at the mercy of people wearing clothes.
He doesn't tell that. The backyard, right?
That's my point. Can I have your attention? Yo, there's one person up here, bro. Excuse me. In order for us to have peace, you gotta be quiet right now. In order for us to have peace, you have to follow instructions. Not to talk right now. As you can see, we've made somewhat of some progress because I'm behind the barrier. So please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right now. We're here again in solidarity. That's our president, sir. Sir, officer, that's our president. Thank you.
There you go. That's progress right there.
I've been lynched by folks in blue, and we are committed to seek the face of justice. But we have to do so in a peaceful manner. Why? Because we can't be like them. Just like them, we are no better, and we will not destroy our community because we don't got no place else to go.
Anybody grow up in the Heights?
Come to the front is because it means something. You're on your Instagram and Facebook saying Black Lives Matter, but you're silent in the crib. It means something. Black and brown and red.
Is this the entire group? Like that? No.
Yes, right here. We up here. Come carry that baby down the street. I tried. You really childish. Why they keep
know y'all entertain. If you're not from this neighborhood, spend more time out here. We don't bite. Spend more time out here. I had a lot of folks telling me we should go downtown and cause a service. Hector Oxygara came up, he's one of the New Jersey Kings history. And you can vote. It's so cold in that. Everybody that's here should be at city council. Everybody that's here should hold the Board of Education accountable. It starts on the ground. Stop it with the B2A group, this coalition with the nonprofits that are doing the work. We in the field every day. Saturday, Sunday. Think that we can focus on cleaning it all up. All the bodies that did this whole time, we cleaning it all up. We got the resources and the manpower to do so.
Oh, that nigga.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait for the escort. Wait for the escort, people. Let's keep everybody safe. You good? All right, cool.
Oh, gotcha.
I like that.
Right? You make it feel we'll be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. Huh? We gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. looking at me for the break up. My homies stop me looking at you for the face down. I'll make 11 even boom with the face down. Scheming, and let me tell you about my life.
You're not looking to be combative with the police. You're looking
my Chevy till I wanna come and get me. Reaping everything I sow, so my comment coming here. No preliminary hearings on my record. I'm a motherfucking gangster. Silence for the record. Tell the world I know it's too late. Cause I think I'm going green. Trying to side my face is all day. Make me when I say, when you know we've been up and down before. Nigga, when the pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? Nigga, and we hate po-po. When they kill us dead in the street for sure. Nigga, I'm at the preacher's door. My knees getting weak and my gun might blow, but we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright. What you want to my house? You a cop for the niggas in the music. My name is Hooligan.
I said, suck my dick, you heard?
Yo. Nah, none of that. None of that. None of that. Save that for y'all home. No justice! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
Don't shoot! peace. No 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 peace.
Black lives matter.
We are not targets. We are not animals. We are human people that deserve human rights. If Black Lives don't matter, nobody does. If Black Lives don't matter, 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 no justice, no justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Now. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Now. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. If Black Lives don't matter, nobody does. If Black Lives don't matter, nobody does. Black Lives. Matter. 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 George. Floyd. George. Floyd. George. Floyd. Trayvon. Martin. Trayvon. Martin. Eric. Gardner. Eric. Gardner. Rihanna. Taylor. Rihanna. Taylor. Black Lives. Matter. 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 We stand in solidarity with Minneapolis as we mourn all those black folks, as we mourn all those black folks who were lynched at the hands of systematic racism through police brutality. If Black Lives don't matter,
Nobody does!
Black Lives don't matter,
Nobody does!
well, let's tell these cops, hands up!
Don't shoot!
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 Black Lives!
Matter!
Black Lives!
Matter!
Black Lives! justice, no peace. No 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 justice, no peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. What do we want it? Now. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Brianna. Taylor. Brianna. Taylor. Eric. Garner. Eric. Garner. George. Floyd. George. Floyd. Trayvon. Martin. Trayvon. Martin. Eric. Garner. Eric. Garner. Black lives matter. 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 Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. No peace. No peace. No peace. No peace. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Matter. 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 Don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. No peace. No peace. No peace. I can't breathe. 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 Matter. Matter. Matter.
He went to fucking Florida. He went to Florida.
No one matters. No one matters. Black lives can't matter. Nobody matters. Black lives don't matter. Nobody matters. Justice. No peace. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Now. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. Hands up. Go shoot. 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 No peace. No peace. No peace. No peace. Black lives matter. 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 Black lives don't matter. No one matters. If black lives don't matter, no one matters. I can't what? Breathe. I can't what? Breathe. We can't what? Breathe. If black lives don't matter, no one matters. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Hands up. Don't shoot. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. If black lives don't matter, no one matters. If black lives don't matter, no one matters. If black lives don't matter, no one matters. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Whose street? Our street. 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 Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. That's all I'm saying. But I was so good. No peace. No peace. I can't what? I can't breathe. I can't what? I can't breathe. We can't what? We can't breathe. We can't what? We can't breathe. If black lives don't matter, no one knows. If black lives don't matter.
Everybody outside. Wake these people up. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. Black lives. All these churches and all these blocks.
Nobody.
If God ain't black, he racist.
Walk with us. Walk with us. Walk with us. Walk with us.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. If black lives don't matter,
Nobody does.
Don't smell like this good right here. Hands up.
Don't shoot.
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 Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Hands up!
Don't shoot.
If black lives don't matter,
Nobody matters.
if black lives don't matter,
Nobody matters.
If black lives don't matter, if black lives don't matter, black lives, 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 no justice, no justice, no justice, hands up, hands up, hands up, black lives, black lives, hands up, hands up. What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Now.
Ain't no peace.
Ain't no justice.
Ain't no justice.
Ain't no peace.
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 Black lives.
Matter.
Black lives don't matter.
Nobody cares.
Black lives don't matter.
Nobody does.
George.
Floyd.
George.
Floyd.
Eric.
Gardner.
Eric.
Gardner.
Trayvon.
Martin.
Trayvon.
Martin.
Brianna.
Taylor.
Brianna.
Taylor.
Brianna.
Taylor.
Sandra.
Bland.
Sandra.
Bland.
Sandra.
Bland.
Sandra.
Bland.
Samir. Samir. people in New Jersey, 19% of the population. 10% of the population. No, it's no there. It's from healthcare affected in the criminal justice system. Police read my you read my read our ancestors mobilize the there's a chance to capture. Please get on this side. Thank you. Kathleen, clean. Elders, clean. First. 5 years old. Years ago, 31st. Wall Street died. So, who started? Who started? You gotta have a history lesson. It wasn't just Coast Logo. It was World War II. Read out here. June 6th. We just screamed on 6. We just screamed cleaning up. Yes. their face.
So we're just entering the centre of Northampton as we speak. The march is actually headed towards the Northampton police station. Okay, so there are literally hundreds of people in the centre of Northampton here. More joining as we're walking along. Sporadically joining the march as we move through the town centre. So I'm going to keep on following this parade. My name's Douglas Hook, reporting for Mass Live. Thank you.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. We can't breathe. We can't breathe. He can't breathe. He can't breathe. She can't breathe. She can't breathe. They can't breathe. They can't breathe. We can't breathe. We can't breathe. We will breathe. We will breathe. All right, everybody. This ground feels comfortable, but thank you so much for being a part of it. Please go home safely. There's water, there's drinks, and please see me if you want more information about what we're doing next. We do have some more actions coming up. Thank y'all again.
Is everybody going home? Yeah, you want to press and fold again? Oh, yeah.
Thank you for organizing.
Oh, man, that was...
Oh, sorry, right for the
Hey, y'all, please remember to go home safely. And yeah, I thank all of y'all for being peaceful today. It really changed a lot. The news media are not running towards violence today, right now.
and I hope they don't have to by the end of today, but please be peaceful. The conversations that's open with the city, if you want to be involved with those conversations, this will prove to you why you was out here, will prove to us why you was out here, and you wasn't out here just making noise. Only thing you have to do is get involved. We're setting up community meetings with the city, and we're working on policy changes. All you have to do is get involved, and we'll make sure you get involved in everything. Thank y'all.
Just want to say I'm here.
Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. Oh, what's up, Greg?
If you want to list the beers, you have them over here. If you want to list about the beers, you have them over here.
I don't want to take like publicity or voices from people of color. I specifically chose you. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Get on up.
And I appreciate you even having that thought. Yeah. Yeah, but I chose you. Okay.
All right, get ready. Look at
Yeah. First, can I just get you to say and spell your name for me?
Adriana Shoemaker, ADRIANNA, SHOEMAKER.
So can you talk about why you decided to come out today?
I think that there's a long history in our society of people of color being oppressed, their voices being not heard, and a long history of white people not standing up alongside them. And so I just wanted to do a little bit, be a little bit, contribute a little bit. This is by far not the end, but I wanted to show up.
And how do you feel being able to come out here and be able to be a part of this movement?
It's really powerful. I think that I've been here the past 3 days in a row, and it's been kind of upsetting, especially yesterday, because there was a huge peaceful protest here at the State House and a lack of publicity around it, and you know, some really fierce, incredible advocates and voices that aren't being highlighted in the media. And so it's been powerful to be here, and I wish that there was more publicity surrounding all of the work that people, primarily people of color, are doing.
What do you say to your fellow white friends who
Show up. Like, okay, they can do a lot on social media. I'm glad that you're getting involved, that you're joining this fight, but you can't just post. That's done enough. Words only go so far if you don't have action behind it. So show up. That's the most I can say to them, I guess.
So what are you going to do going forward?
I know he was just talking about some community organization, community meetings. I'd love to get involved. I was just saying to my friend that I'm sure he's swamped right now, so now's not the time to go up and talk to him, but like, I'm in part of that Facebook page, I Can't Breathe SC. I've started donating to some community organizations and national organizations to just stay involved. I really don't want this flame to settle and to just go back to business as usual. I think for systemic change to come, we need to keep taking action.
Thank you very much.
Oh, look, got kids over here with water and stuff. Yeah. I don't know who the parents are.
This crowd has gone from maybe around 100 around the noon hour to several hundred in the last few hours. Loud and passionate, but again, I stress peaceful. Police are watching, not confronting. There is no standoff or face-off like there was in the streets. These protesters are staying on the sidewalk, which is different than some of what we've seen over the last 3 days, where they are overtaking the streets.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
I'm with Channel 10. Would you mind speaking with me? No? Don't have to.
What are we talking about this? I just want to lose the dog. You're going to lose the dog? Sure.
Okay. You want to give your name?
My name's Ashley.
Ashley, where you live?
I live in Newark, Ohio.
Newark?
Yes.
Okay. What brings you out here today?
I'm doing this for...
Is this your son?
Yes, this is my son. I'm also doing this for everyone to bring an end to police brutality. I'm also doing this not only for my son, but for my brother, for my nephews, and for my grandchildren.
Okay. Tell me about why you wrote this on your sign.
Because I do want to
speak up for me.
that my son is not a threat because of the color of his skin. Amen. My son is not a threat.
He is not a threat.
How old is he?
He's 11.
11.
And I just had to have a talk with him because all of this is going on.
What talk was that? Tell me.
About being a black man in America. And how he has to be extra careful.
And how do you say that to an... You're 11? How do you say that to an 11-year-old? How do you make an 11-year-old understand that?
Honestly, it was hard. It was hard. It was hard for him to process. Because he just didn't understand, and in Newark we are pretty sheltered. So bringing him out here was very important to me, for him to see that there's a bigger world out there, and I want him to be able to make a change.
Do you fear for your son?
Yes.
What's that like as a mom?
When he gets older and old enough to drive, I am scared that something's going to happen to my son. I'm afraid that he's going to reach out and get an ID and they're going to shoot my son.
That's why we're out here for the change.
I've seen it happen to my brother. I've been pulled over with him many times since I was a young age. And I'm done. I want to make a change.
We need a change.
Yeah. Young man, do you want to say anything? You don't have to. It's totally up to you. Just speak up real loud for me so that they can hear you.
I just want to change because it's really bad out here because we're treated differently. I don't like it.
You feel like you're treated differently? How does that make you feel? Your mom says she had to have a talk with you about being safe as a young black man. Can you tell me about that talk?
It was really hard for me to get it through.
Speak up real loud for me.
It was really hard for me to get it through.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's different. I never even really knew that it was like this.
We started watching the news and everything. We've seen everything that's going on. And he had questions about George Floyd and the things that was going on with him and why they did that to him. It's hard. It's hard. But we let him express himself, and then we kind of filled in the blanks for him a little bit, and he really wanted to come out and do this because he feels like change is needed. So we brought him out today, and we'll watch and protect our family, our son, everybody else's kids. Enough's enough. It's time for change. We're not out here destructing, tearing up stuff, anything like that. We want voices to be heard, and we want to change in a peaceful, protesting way.
Yeah. What does it mean to you guys to see this here today, to see what's happened?
Togetherness, I love it. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for my son, thank you for my wife. Thank you for all these people out here. Togetherness, that's what it means. Less government, more people.
What do you think of all this as you look around and see all this?
You like it?
Because everyone's coming together and trying to have a way for
Yeah. Okay. Does it make you, I don't know. Does it make you have hope? Does it make you hopeful? What's that?
I said I'm sorry that I'm being pretty.
No, you're good. You're good. It's just real noisy out here. We just want to make sure everybody hears what you're saying. Ma'am, anything else? Any other thoughts?
Thank you to everybody standing by. Tell them, babe.
Stand up for what you believe in and what's right. Because what happened was not okay.
No one should be put through that, especially for the color of your skin. You can stand up for what we believe in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, young man. Did a good job. Let me give you my contact information. If you just shoot me your contact information if you would, so I can follow up if I need to, in case for future stories, I get a good story to tell. It was Facebook Live.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But we might do some other TV. Is that okay with you? You didn't say anything controversial.
No, she's a schoolhouse.
That's and I just, yeah.
But don't worry about it. Stand up.
Well, it has nothing to do with your job, and we don't need to say what your job is. That has nothing to do with why you're here. You're here as a mom.
Yes.
So it's just a mom's perspective. I feel like.
Thank you.
If you don't want it, I mean, it's live on the internet.
Right.
So it's out there.
Yeah.
If you don't want it on TV, tell me and I'll respect that.
She's all right. She's all right. Put it out there.
It's your choice. I'll respect your wishes.
We already talked about that.
I mean, it is out there on the internet now.
That's okay. It's okay.
But she does got a story to tell. She is a very smart woman about all history all the way back. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Send me your contact information, please.
Feel better?
Thank you. Thank you. What time it is? 2:50. 2:50. Okay, thank you. So that conversation, I hope you guys could hear it over all the noise and the horns and the chanting, because it doesn't get more personal than that. Then an adorable 11-year-old child holding up a sign saying, "I'm not a threat," and a mother holding up a sign saying, "My son is not a threat." Literally in tears, having to have a conversation that I can't relate to with their child, that they might be harmed, he might be harmed, he might be perceived as a threat just based on the color of his skin. It's tough stuff, and very human.
I use it for self-defense. That's it. I don't just kill people because I just got a gun. We need to understand what we need to do. Quit killing one another. We need to quit killing stuff that's not going back home. My brother is in the funeral business. I see the whole bunch of young people, young, in the gas, dying because at the head of your life.
You got a pile. A lot of piles.
Anybody need water bottles?
Water? Sorry.
Anybody need water?
bad boy. This is for real.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I don't want to be attacked. I cannot imagine walking down the street and being afraid of being attacked for the color of my skin. So I am here with you, and I will be here with you as long as I can. And I am sorry for everyone who has been hurt by this. I am sorry, but we are all here now. Fuck Donald Trump!
All right, guys. I think you've got a sense of what's happening here. The emotion, the sentiment, the message. Peaceful protest, several hundred people, police. I see 4 officers now just watching, standing in the median of High Street to make sure it stays on the sidewalk and doesn't get into traffic. No confrontation. No riot gear. No tear gas. Just uniformed officers watching and monitoring. And the message from organizers and the folks with the bullhorns here over and over again: keep this peaceful. They want change. They want to be heard. All right, I'm going to sign off here. We will stay and monitor the scene. If anything changes, we'll pop back on.
Heather's located right now. We're on the east side of the Secretary of State's office in the Grand Rapids Police Department. Now, just a few minutes ago, police actually moved the barricade 1 block east on Fulton to Fulton and Sheldon, and they're also approaching people who are in this area and telling them they've got to leave. Now, a few minutes ago, we actually saw 3 teenage girls walking through with flowers that they wanted to give to police as peace offerings. Now, this rumored protest is supposed to start at 3 o'clock, but you know what's not clear is it's even going to happen at all. The Grand Rapids Police Department put something on their Facebook page saying that they're trying to reach out to whoever the organizer of this is to try to, have some dialogue with the organizers to let them know that this is not a permitted event. Now, as Heather said, we've got the National Guard, we've got the Kent County Sheriff's Department, Grand Rapids Police in full riot gear, ready for anything, just in case. As she said, they don't want to repeat that left so many of these windows boarded just Saturday night.
Ken, I saw in Heather Walker's Instagram stories that police were being bussed in from other departments. Can you give us a feel of which departments you're seeing out there?
At this intersection, and I just talked to one of the officers in charge out here, this intersection, all I've seen was Grand Rapids Police, the Kent County Sheriff's Department, and the National Guard. Now, there are many other corners that are being policed here, and if that is indeed the case, my guess is that they are setting up on some of those other corners, those other departments. But as I said, they're clearing people out from this area, and they're ready for whatever might happen. I've seen no sign of
coming out of the bus right now.
Any protesters here.
All right, Ken, stay safe down there. Right now, we want to take you live to the State Emergency Operations Center, where Governor Whitmer is speaking live.
More than 5,000 men and women in this state. And now we are seeing the historic inequities of racial injustice coming to a tipping point in communities across America, including communities here in Michigan. Not to mention the fact that we've been through a 500-year flooding episode. I want to begin by once again acknowledging the disproportionate adversity people of color, African American communities are facing, whether it's because they've been hit hardest by the spread of COVID-19 or because the death of George Floyd has once again shone a light on the systematic cycle of injustice in our country. To the overwhelming majority who have taken to the streets and protested peacefully, protesting historic inequities Black Michiganders and those across the country are facing. I hear you. I see you. I respect you, and I support your efforts to enact real structural change in America. I cannot begin to understand your level of exhaustion, the constant stress and pain in the African American community, but I know that it is understandable and it is justified. I also know that the pain of the convergence of these two crises, the health crisis and the social crisis, will be felt by those who can bear it the least. Communities of color who've paid a dear price for a virus that exposes chronic disparities in health outcomes. The poor who will surely struggle to overcome these crises. And Black businesses and communities that will be destroyed in the wake of people who are coming into communities under the guise of support, but who are instigating violence and vandalism. We must all collectively be the solutions to the problems that we are confronting. We've got to summon the courage and the self-discipline to confront these crises in nonviolent ways so that we can be impactful and make the change we want to see. Keeping the focus on justice for George Floyd and his family and loved ones, and those who came before him, and the many whose names we may or may not know, and for those who continue to live in constant fear. We must pursue action and reforms that will address the immediate pain and the systemic injustice. To the organizers of the demonstrations, please continue to demonstrate and designate a route and time frame and encourage everyone to be safe and do everything you can to ensure safe social distancing and wear your masks. To everyone who can, check in on your loved ones and make sure they're okay. And come August and November, vote for someone you believe will enact real cultural change in our sheriff's and mayor's offices, in our district and state attorney's offices. These actions will make a difference. We will get through this. We will see real change when we lock arms together and work together. Now I want to shift gears and talk about steps that we are taking here in Michigan to continue re-engaging sectors of our economy. Because while this has been a challenging time, we've made some sacrifices when it comes to the global pandemic, and we're seeing our numbers continue to improve. And that is cause for feeling optimistic. This morning, I took a few moments to read a powerful essay written by our former President Barack Obama about how we can make this moment a turning point for real change in our country. We all need optimism. I felt hopeful and inspired in a way that I hadn't for a while. Then I joined a call with my fellow governors a couple hours ago with the current administration, and it was deeply disturbing. Instead of offering support or leadership to bring down the temperature of protests, the president told governors to put it down or we'd be overridden. He said governors should dominate protesters or you'll look like a bunch of jerks. That's what he said to the nation's governors a couple hours ago. He repeatedly and viciously attacked governors who are doing everything we can to keep the peace while we're working to save lives in a once-in-a-generation pandemic. Now, I generally don't discuss what is said on those calls, regardless of how outrageous some of it is. But it already seemed as though much of it was in the press before the call had concluded. And two, I think these dangerous comments are gravely concerning because of the clear signal that it says that they're determined to sow seeds of hatred and division in a time where we need to bring the temperature down. I fear that it will only lead to more violence and destruction, and we must reject that way of thinking. This is a moment that calls for empathy and humanity and unity. This is one of the most challenging times in our nation's history, but as Americans, we have to remember that the enemy here is racial injustice, not each other. Let us heed the powerful words of President Obama in that essay to channel our justifiable anger into peaceful, sustained, and effective action. It's time for us all to pull together and do the hard work of building a nation that works for everyone. Here in Michigan, that means we're in a position where we can turn the dial a little bit more and re-engage sectors of our economy and do it in a safe manner because of the sacrifice that you've already made. We can't let our guard down, but now we are in a position to move forward. And today I signed an executive order moving the entire state of Michigan to phase 4 of the My Safe Start plan. I've also rescinded the Safer at Home order, provided that Michiganders can continue to do their part, wearing masks, social distancing, washing our hands, and keeping COVID-19 from spreading again. Later this week, I plan to issue an executive order to move regions 6 and 8 to phase 5. It will depend on the numbers, of course, and we'll be watching it closely. Local leaders always retain the ability to keep restrictions in place if they think they need them. I encourage local leaders to work with DHHS and the State Emergency Operations Center, to work with their local public health, and to work with their local hospital systems as they make those determinations. But the data has shown that we're ready to carefully move our state into this next phase. But we owe it to our frontline heroes to make sure we get this right. On behalf of our healthcare workers, our first responders, our grocery workers, child care, utility workers, and everyone else who's been working to keep us safe from the beginning, we all have to keep doing our part. The shift to phase 4 will occur in stages. Effective immediately, groups of 100 or less can gather outdoors so long as they maintain strict social distancing. Outdoor fitness classes are permitted so long as participants can remain 6 feet from one another. Office work that is not capable of being performed at home can resume, though you're still expected to work from home if it is possible. Drive-in movie theaters can start operating, and house cleaning services and other in-home services can also resume. On Thursday, retailers that have been closed can reopen with capacity limits. And on this coming Monday, restaurants can reopen for indoor and outdoor seating so long as tables can be kept 6 feet from one another. That means you must maintain social distancing in these places and wearing your mask and making sure that you continue to do your part. In restaurants, it'll be 50% or less of capacity so long as you're maintaining that 6 feet. Day camps can resume their activities subject to further guidelines on how we will keep our kids safe. That is next Monday. You can find a full list of businesses that may reopen in the full executive order at michigan.gov/coronavirus. In fact, what you will see is a list that cannot reopen, and that's precisely what we're trying to do here. Before, we have said the vast majority need to stay home except for a handful of exceptions that we've grown. At this point, we're saying you can return to some more normal life unless you are in this particular part of the economy. So we're trying to flip our mindset here, and I think that that is really good news. As always, businesses that are permitted to reopen must have strict safety measures so that they can protect their workers, their customers, and their families and clients. So it's good news. We still have a strict responsibility to make sure that every one of us is doing our part to lower the chance of a devastating second wave. May was hard. April was hard. The last part of March was as well. We don't want to repeat this in the fall. So please, take your role seriously and keep doing your part. We need to continue following the data, especially in the Grand Rapids region. But if the current trajectory continues, I anticipate in the next few weeks we'll be able to announce the rest of the state moving into phase 5. No one wants to move backwards, but if we see a spike coming, we may have to. So please keep doing your part. If you choose to go to a restaurant or to an outdoor fitness class, be smart. We all have a responsibility here. So while Michiganders are no longer required to stay home, we must all continue to practice social distancing and encourage those who meet the criteria to get tested for COVID-19. It is important that we continue to ramp up and get tested. Last week, I signed an executive order that expands the types of medical personnel that can order a test to include nurses, physician's assistants, and pharmacists. We create a new category of community testing sites that offer testing to anyone with reason to be tested without an advance order and without charging an out-of-pocket cost to any Michigander. Dr. Khaldun has also announced expanded criteria. Michiganders eligible for testing include someone who exhibits any symptom of COVID-19, has been exposed to a person diagnosed with COVID-19 or has symptoms, has been working outside their home for at least 10 days, or resides or works in a congregate setting like a long-term care facility, prison or jail, homeless shelter, or migrant camp. If you go to a community testing location, medical personnel will be able to order testing upon your arrival. A person who wishes to be tested may call the Michigan Coronavirus Hotline at 888-535-6136 or visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test to find an appropriate testing location. Getting tested is simple. I went to the Sparrow drive-through testing site in Lansing. It was quick, it was simple, and while the pictures looked funny, it was painless. So, if you fit this expanded criteria, please get a test. On Thursday, I called the federal government to ensure flexibility and financial support for states like Michigan so that we can recover from this pandemic. We also need help from the federal government to encourage everyone to get tested. We need the White House to create a specific long-term plan outlining how the federal government will ensure we have the adequate testing supplies we need so we can gather the data that we need to make informed decisions about re-engaging our economies across the country. And we would all benefit from a guarantee of free testing nationwide, coupled with robust federal messaging campaign to ensure Americans get tested. Most people don't know that they can get tested now, or they're afraid the process will be painful, invasive, or cost them too much money, when in reality it's simple and it's quick, and it's in many locations free. We're taking a big step forward today in Michigan. There's a crucial individual work we have to do to avoid a second wave, and so it's on all of you to do your part. My message to you is stay smart, stay safe, and if you fit the criteria, get tested. It's on all of us to get this right. We've come a long way together, and there's no doubt we've made a lot of sacrifice, and it's been tough. It's been hard on our communities and our small business owners and our neighbors and our loved ones. We've lost too many to this virus. So I want to thank you for repeatedly, day after day, those of you who've done your part to get us to this moment, and to the brave, heroic men and women on the front line who never left and took care of us in our greatest time of need, even at your own expense. I'll continue to work around the clock on your behalf. Thank you. We would not have gotten here without your bravery, your compassion, and your leadership. So, it is June 1st, and I want to end today's remarks by wishing happy Pride to Michigan's LGBTQ plus community. Remember to celebrate safely, practice social distancing, and wear your masks. With that, I'll turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist.
Thank you, Governor. And I also want to acknowledge and show gratitude for the service of Dr. Jonae Khaldun, our state's chief medical executive, another amazing leader that we are blessed to have here in the state of Michigan. As a black man in America, it is hard enough to breathe on most days. But the last few months, this has become even more difficult. The scab covering the wounds of oppression has once again been ripped off. Black people across our nation are suffering and suffocating from an injustice that we know all too well. Our administration, the most representative of our state's people in our state's history, feels this, and we are here to heal. We are simultaneously facing two of the most consequential crises of our lifetimes, COVID-19 and the persistence of police brutality. As always, the pain of the convergence of these crises is being felt by those in the communities that can bear it the least. George Floyd's final words have become a rallying cry for a nation that has not been able to breathe. In fact, Black communities are mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted from generations of saying that we cannot breathe. We can't breathe when the knee of injustice is pressed against our necks. We can't breathe when a virus that is disproportionately killing our brothers and sisters is present. That is why it is more important than ever that we dedicate each breath to peaceful action. To the overwhelming majority of the people of Michigan who have taken this moment to demonstrate, they're doing so peacefully, through the peaceful, impactful nonviolence that has precipitated change throughout our nation's history. Thank you for stepping up in that manner. Please remain vigilant. Please practice social distancing. Please wear your mask if you do choose to demonstrate. These experiences are not unique to me, and they aren't unique to the city of Detroit. They're not even unique to the state of Michigan. These are experiences that many people have felt for our entire lives. The experience that we are faced with, that we are forced to endure, because the people with the most power, the people who make the rules, have not shared the same experiences that we have. Yet when our nation is at its greatest need for a unifying voice, the rhetoric from our nation's highest office has been one of division, distraction, and destruction. During this tremendously tumultuous time, I often think back to the words of W.E.B. Du Bois, which he wrote more than 100 years ago. He said that the most difficult social problem in the matter of the Negro's health is the peculiar attitude of the nation toward the well-being of the race. There have, for instance, been few other cases in the history of civilized people where human suffering has been viewed with such peculiar indifference. The struggles that we face under the systems that we operate, they didn't just happen. They weren't ordained by God. Rather, they were designed by men. They are designed by people who are indifferent to some of these situations. But what that means is that a different, a larger, a more representative set of people can make a different set of choices, can establish and design a different set of systems that lead to a different set of outcomes and opportunities. As a collective group of people, we have the ability to challenge and change systems to overcome and eliminate the struggles that too many people in our communities face. And just like every other challenge that we've encountered throughout the years, we can force change when we come together to pursue solutions. So when we look at what we need to do next, we must remember that our parents and grandparents set out a blueprint toward justice. In this critical moment, we must recognize our power. In this collective moment, we must organize our power. And in this consequential moment, we must use that power to pursue actions and reforms that will address the immediate pain as well as the systemic injustice. If we are going to design a system that works for everyone, then this is the charge that I give to you. As we march, we need to think about what we need to do to become further engaged. As we get engaged, we need to think about what we need to do to make our voices heard. And as we make our voices heard, we must think of what we need to do to take this energy everywhere from our census forms to the ballot box. This is why representation matters. We cannot do this alone. When you see who I'm joining on the stage here, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, only the second woman to occupy the office of the governor of the state of Michigan. Dr. Jonae Caldoun, an incredible black woman who is fighting the COVID-19 as our state's top medical professional. And myself, the first black person to occupy the office of lieutenant governor. When we have complete and full representation, we then get the policies and programs that are able to address the complete list of concerns that people have. The Michigan Coronavirus Task Force on Racial Disparities, which I chair on the request of Governor Whitmer, has been the direct result of this diverse and representative leadership, the most diverse leadership team responding to coronavirus and COVID-19 in the country. We've taken action along with Dr. Caldoun to significantly broaden the testing protocol as our testing capacity increases, meaning more testing for more vulnerable people. We have scaled models for flexible, accessible testing, including drive-through, pop-up testing in targeted, identified, vulnerable, impoverished communities, like two that I visited just yesterday in Westland and in Albion. New brick and mortar test sites, at least 20, 14 of which are in the hardest hit zip codes in our state. And a coming expansion of mobile drive-to testing, which will literally take testing where it's needed most. We have named and given guidance to how we can combat implicit bias when it comes to decisions related to testing and treatment, including issuing a policy of non-discrimination when it comes to how those choices are made. And we're putting people on the path to long-term care, recognizing that they will be coming into contact with a doctor perhaps for the first time or the first time in a long time during this pandemic. This will enable the management of the conditions that have proven deadly when mixed with coronavirus, but are manageable when you have a relationship with the physician. Just in closing, I want to speak to all of the people who are screaming for justice and equity, particularly young people who are issuing this call, like those I joined on the west side of Detroit yesterday afternoon. To everyone who feels unheard, I hear you. These have been my experiences too. To everyone who feels unseen, I see you. These have been my experiences too. To everyone who feels silenced, I will use this position to help uplift your voices. This will take time, but we can and we will scale this mountain of suffering with our paths lit with the light of compassion, with our feet driven by the grit that we will not accept failure, ultimately reaching the summit of equality that recognizes that we are all human beings, valuable and capable of pursuing our dreams, right here in the state of Michigan and everywhere where we can pursue our potential around the country and around the world. Thank you so much. And now it is my honor to bring forward Dr. Jonae Caldoun.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Whitmer and Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist. I want to also take a moment to recognize the protests across the country and here in Michigan about the murder of George Floyd, police brutality, and racial injustice. My condolences go out to the family of George Floyd and the families of all the other black and brown people who have been unjustly targeted and killed because of their race. As a black mother with 3 children, I know the distress of not knowing if someone will see your child's life as less valuable because of the color of their skin. I've seen the disproportionate impact that racism has had on health outcomes for people of color, not because of genetic differences, because of differences in unequal access to adequate housing, health care, education, and jobs. This directly contributes to health disparities, including what we are seeing with COVID-19, where African Americans make up only 13% of Michigan's population, but they are 40% of deaths. Racism is absolutely a matter of public health. And as a society, we must do better. I stand with those who are peacefully striving to advance justice, not just for my children and family, but for black and brown people all across the country. So now, let's talk a little bit about where we are with Michigan's response to COVID-19. Today we are announcing 57,532 cases and 5,516 total deaths. We've seen, as the governor mentioned, encouraging trends with rates of cases declining across the entire state. While there is still variability across regions of the state, overall we are seeing about 12 new cases per million people per day. Across the state, about 12% of people tested have tested positive for the disease, but in the past 2 weeks, that number has been much lower at about 5%. And because of these trends, we're able to move regions of the state forward with next steps in the My Safe Start plan. And if we all continue to do our part, we'll be able to prevent people from getting sick and dying. And we'll be able to maintain the capacity that our healthcare systems have so that they have enough beds and PPE and equipment and medications to be able to care for patients. And we'll be able to continue moving forward, not backward, with reengaging our economy. But let me be very clear, the threat of the disease has not gone away. There's no vaccine, there's no antiviral treatment, and we do not expect to have one for several months. And just one person can still infect many, many more people. So it's incredibly important that as businesses open up, they do so in the safest way possible, following the safety protocols and guidance put forth by public health officials. It's incredibly important that people continue to socially distance, wear a mask, not gather in large crowds, and wash hands appropriately. And especially for those who are most vulnerable to severe disease from COVID-19, like the elderly and those with underlying chronic medical conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease. Strongly consider still not going out unless you absolutely have to protect yourself. So one of the most important things we have to do, especially as more and more people are coming out to work, is to make sure we are catching any new cases as quickly as possible. We need to get these people tested, and we need to make sure they are isolating and quarantining as quickly as possible. To help meet this goal, last week, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, in partnership with the Labor and Economic Opportunity Department and the University of Michigan School of Public Health and College of Engineering, launched the My Symptoms web portal. This portal will allow people to track their symptoms and quickly be connected to public health officials so they can get tested and get access to important resources. It is also a very important tool for the state to monitor any uptick in symptoms. So the more people that are logging on and using this application, the more we will be able to understand where the disease and outbreaks may be so that we can stop the spread. So I encourage everyone to go to our website. It's www.mysymptomapp.state.mi.us and start using it to track your symptoms. You can also access this on our web portal. You can access this web portal and other important resources on COVID-19, including our new data dashboard and resources on how to get tested at www.michigan.gov/coronavirus. So I'm glad that we're moving forward with the next steps of the My Safe Start plan, but I continue to ask everyone to please remain vigilant as we fight this disease together. And with that, I will turn it back over to Governor Whitmer.
Dr. J, want to be here? I know you're going to get some questions. All right. With that, I'm happy to open it up.
Governor, what concrete measures does your administration plan to take or propose to stop police violence in Michigan? Do you support legislation from Senator Jeff Irwin that would require training on implicit bias and de-escalation tactics for incoming law enforcement officers?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of merit, and that could be one piece of what ultimately should be a multifaceted piece. You know, I have had a lot of conversation with the colonel of the state police about this, with the TAG about this, with my administration's been talking with the ACLU and Black Lives Matter. I think that there is a lot of interest in making sure that we get this right and making sure that we've got a table that is real representation around it, because you know, one of the things that I have been inspired by is the absolute embrace of solving this problem that I see by law enforcement, by many leaders in law enforcement. We saw a really remarkable thing happen. Sheriff Swanson, what he did in Genesee County, I know it went viral and nationwide, and Barack Obama even mentioned it in the piece that he wrote that I mentioned in my opening remarks. I think that there are a lot of people of goodwill who want to solve this problem, and that it probably looks like a multifaceted agenda that I would anticipate that the Lieutenant Governor will be, on behalf of the administration, taking the lead on, because I think it's a natural extension of the work that he's doing with the racial disparities task force.
Governor, back to the phone call with the president. Just what was going through your mind during this exchange, if in fact it was an exchange? And also, what concerns do you have about how this might affect requests for disaster assistance vis-a-vis floods, and also federal help with the budget deficit?
Okay, let me answer that on a couple of different fronts. First and foremost, we have found our federal partners to be very good to work with. By and large, they're the same kind of dedicated public servants that state employees are, and working with our counterparts has been productive. Have we gotten everything that we need? No state has. The fact of the matter is, there are a lot of miscalculations that happened early on and have precluded us from having the kind of supplies we have. Even to this day, we do not have everything we need to ramp up to our full capability in testing. We've gotten some shipments of swabs. We're grateful for them, but they don't meet the needs that we have in Michigan, so that we can fulfill the real promise of 25,000 a day tests. We're capable of doing that today. We just don't have the supplies, and that the supply chain problems are an issue that they have ongoing. Now, with regard to this phone call with the president, it was galling, because we are at a point in time where people need hope and unity and a strategy to pull people together and to save lives. And I'm frustrated because what we see is rhetoric that feeds into that anxiety, that understandable exhaustion that my African American friends talk about every time they talk. Exhaustion is the overwhelming word that people use, because these are problems that we've been confronting, and it's exacerbated by what we're seeing on COVID-19 and how it impacts communities of color. So I was very frustrated, and I can tell you I've had a lot of conversations with my colleagues who feel the same way. To assert that we should be dominating and if we don't, they're going to come in and do it, is the antithesis of what we need right now as a country, which is a leader who can bring us together, can focus us and say, we're going to get through this, and give us the kind of pep talk the nation needs. It just sows more seeds of division, and it makes it more dangerous. And that's what we're trying to. Governors across this country on both sides of the aisle are doing everything we can to save lives and keep our economies going, and to do so safely and avoid a second wave. Every ounce of energy I have is going into that. Am I afraid by being critical of the White House that will preclude us? Listen, I have worked incredibly hard. They have been helpful, and I show my gratitude. But when they're wrong, I have a duty to say we deserve better. And what was on that call had already leaked out to the press. I was just wanting to put my thoughts on it. I believe that they will help us. They have to help the states. COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on our state budgets. And if the U.S. Senate and the White House don't act to help us, the people that have stayed on the front lines throughout this crisis are the ones that may be hurt by it. Because when you look at trying to make this budget balance, we know the biggest expenditures are health care, public health and safety, and the education of our kids. We can't afford to make those cuts, and that's why the federal government is going to step up. I believe that they will. I do not believe this will change that. Michigan is counting on the feds to deliver, as is every other state in the nation.
Good afternoon, Governor. One of the things that we're starting to see, particularly on the border area of Michigan, is many people are going to Ohio and Indiana to get haircuts, nail appointments and the like, sending Michigan dollars to other states. And in as much as we are now moving to stage 4, hair salons still are not part of that. And so it begs the question, what do you tell those people who are going to Ohio and bringing their money there, going to Indiana, bringing their money there, what they should do here? And more than that, how do we jumpstart this economy knowing that the difficulty we have with our budget?
Yeah, so, I mean, we're taking a big step forward today. It's undeniable. The fact that we've gone from a moment where we've said everyone needs to stay home except for these essential things to now it's okay to re-engage except for a few of these things that still are too risky. That's our judgment. My hope is that we turn the dial in 2 weeks and take that next step. 2 to 3 weeks is what we think we need to see in terms of data. Now, I'm concerned. People who are going to Ohio might be bringing COVID-19 back. I'm worried about that. We know that their numbers have been increasing while ours has been decreasing. What we've done in Michigan has worked, and it has set us apart from other states. It's precisely why we've got to do this right. And so I tell people, if you're like me, you need a haircut desperately, a couple more weeks of this, and we may be back in a place where we're able to do that safely. It's still going to require strict protocols. It's still going to require every one of us keeping our guard up and doing the right thing. But we may be taking that step, and I'd like to do it before Independence Day weekend. But we got to follow the data. And so if you're one of those people that's going to Ohio, I pray that you are doing your part not to bring COVID-19 home, and that if you haven't resorted to that, Google how to do a haircut or throw your hair in a ponytail or curl it and get through the next couple of weeks, and we can resume some of these things.
Governor, you mentioned the importance of public officials turning down the heat when these protests are happening. And I wanted to see if there's anything that your administration is doing to help turn down the heat in these areas where some of the protests that started out peacefully devolved into violent demonstrations, and also just ask if you approved of how mayors in Lansing, Detroit, Grand Rapids handled the situation.
So I've been talking regularly with the mayors of those 3 cities in particular. I've talked with Mayor Duggan, I've talked with Mayor Bliss and Mayor Shore. I walked around downtown Lansing this morning at the early hours to take in. I actually met with Mayor Shore when I did this morning. I think that, it's really important that everyone with a platform try to bring the heat down. And that's why I was so disappointed in the call with the White House earlier today. We are in the midst of a global pandemic, and we're confronting decades anxiety and anger about police brutality in the same moment, not to mention a 500-year flooding event. And yet every one of us with a platform, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're on the federal level or the state level or the local level, should be doing everything we can to bring down the heat. I have engaged with ecumenical leaders and legislative leaders. I think that every local leader should be having conversations with their networks and with their members and with their constituents. We need to seek to understand one another. We need to give people hope and listen and be true allies. When I see some of the things play out across the state as soon as it gets dark, I'm very troubled by it, because it's by and large not the peaceful demonstrators who are upset about George Floyd and all of our nation's history around police brutality. There's people with different agendas who are abusing someone else's pain in order to inflict damage on a community. And I don't think that's acceptable. And I think that it's on every single one of us to do our part to keep that from happening. And so we're working very closely with these local leaders. We are lifting up those who are really making a difference. And I think, like the sheriff that I mentioned from Genesee County, there are a lot of wonderful stories that are playing out in the midst of all of this pain, and we need to lift those up. Videos on Twitter of a man giving a pep talk to a let's see, a middle-aged African-American man giving a pep talk to a younger 16-year-old African-American young man. We need to seek these out. We need to lift these up, and we need to stay focused on what really is the issue that we're combating and recognize the enemy is a virus. The enemy is the virus of social injustice. We are not one another's enemy. We have to get through this, and we will get through this together.
Governor, what discussions, if any, have you had with the legislature's Republican majority leadership regarding some commonly agreed upon actions to address frustration and police brutality?
We actually have a call scheduled for tomorrow morning.
Governor, can you talk a little bit more about your nursing home policy, where that stands, and do you have any regrets for making these nursing homes with COVID positive and COVID negative patients, fire marshals coming in and asking them to take down walls that were part of the separation? Where are we headed with this policy?
So I'm going to ask Dr. Khaldun to weigh in here. I'll just start with this. This is a novel virus, and novel simply means it's new. It means we've never seen anything like this before, and we're learning a tremendous amount in a short period of time. In the early days, I often would, observe, because some of the best science was saying COVID-19 can stay active and can be picked up from a stainless steel surface for days. That was the original science. That's what they were saying. Now it seems less certain. The fact of the matter is we're learning an incredible amount, and we are trying to be nimble and move swiftly with the best science and best information that we have so that we can save lives. With regard to our nursing home policies, we I think have learned a great deal in the last 10 weeks. I think that if we could go back in a time machine and do some things differently, sure, there are things that we would improve upon. But every action we took was based on the best science and the best information available to protect people and to save lives. We have adjusted and made some changes, and for that part of the conversation, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. J.
Thank you. And I'll just reiterate what we said last week. It's disheartening to see the deaths at our nursing facilities. It's not just Michigan, but across the country where people are just grappling with this. We have, in the state, followed CMS guidance when it comes to nursing facilities the entire time. But clearly, there's no question we need to do more, not just with our nursing facilities, but also with our data and reporting, which we've been very open and honest about. So right now, we need to make sure that our nursing facilities have appropriate staffing so they can take care of people. We've never forced any nursing facility to take patients that they did not feel like they could take good care of with the appropriate distancing and PPE. So right now we're working on making sure there's appropriate staffing, making sure there's appropriate beds, so those regional hubs. We're working with our healthcare systems to see if they can develop what we call swing beds, so the availability of beds in the hospital for people to be in. But we've got a lot more work to do, but we're definitely working hard on it.
A couple of questions about the allowing more businesses to reopen. Wanted to see if you or the doctor could go into more detail on the criteria you're using to, one, get into the reopening process for Phase 4, what criteria would be necessary for Phase 5, and also what businesses would be potentially be reopened once we hit Phase 5, potentially by 4th of July.
All right, so I know Dr. J can do a lot of this off the top of her head in terms of what businesses we can look at will be opening in Phase 5. It would include theaters, indoor gyms, personal services, overnight camps. Those are some examples. When you have an opportunity to look at the order, you'll see that they're articulated because the general rule is now we can safely re-engage except for these particular things that are deemed a little higher risk. It's really important that people continue to learn the protocols. So as restaurants are looking to re-engage, I think a week from today, let me make sure I get it right. Yep. it's right now is the time to make sure that they are learning the protocols, that they are studying them, that they've got everything they need to keep their workforce and their customers safe. This has been in practice in regions 6 and 8 for a little while. Perhaps they can be talking with their counterparts in those parts of the state so that if there are lessons to be learned, they can deploy them. None of us wants to be the ground zero where COVID-19 makes a big increase again. And so I know that every business owner wants to make sure they get it right. The protocols are easy to access, and I hope that people will avail themselves of that. For small businesses that are seeking to get the PPE that they need, they can do it through the Pure Michigan Business Connect, and where we are connecting small businesses in Michigan who are making PPE with those that need to buy it.
Governor, on the response to the flooding in mid-Michigan, what's your current thinking about using an internal agency investigation into what happened and what went wrong with the Edenville Dam versus an independent outside inquiry into what went wrong?
We think that, it's important that we have the expertise in this area to do the initial investigation. I have confidence that we will get precisely that, and it will be above reproach. The fact of the matter is, there's a long history with these 4 dams owned by this particular owner. There are a long history with FERC. We are working in conjunction with our federal partners to make sure that we get this right. And I think that we've got to let the initial investigation get done by the expertise on the ground.
Yes, Governor. One last question. As it pertains to the protests, many people, yes, some had masks, but many did not. Massive crowds, lots of people together. What is your level of concern about what that means in terms of social distancing and what impact that might have on the state?
High. I've got a high level of concern about it when people congregate without masks and they are projecting their voices. They're expectorating their aerosol. The aerosol from their speech is precisely how COVID-19 spreads. Study after study has shown, one choir practice got, a whole choir sick with COVID-19. I mean, these are the actions that we have learned contribute to the spread of COVID-19. So not wearing masks and projecting, which is what was happening at the demonstrations, is precisely how this passes. Now, I'll say this, a lot of the early in the day events where it really was a peaceful protest, people were wearing masks. They were, appeared to really be taking the practices seriously to keep themselves safe. And I think that was important. But as nighttime came, as more people packed into smaller areas, as we saw the fewer masks being worn, I do think it's concerning. And so I say my hope is that we are fully re-engaged by the middle of the month to the end of the month. We're going to follow the numbers. And if we see things start to spike, we're going to slow down. We may even have to take a step backward. And I know none of us wants that, so that's why everyone's got to keep doing their part. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Governor.
A lot of information and some heartfelt messages coming out of today's press conference in Dimondale. Let's go to political reporter Rick Albin, who is standing by and has been listening. Rick?
Emily, this is, again, one of those very significant days when we come to our coverage of the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak, because this is the first time that we've seen a big swath of the state move into a significantly less restrictive position. That's phase 4. And that has a lot of implications, not meaning that you still are supposed to wear a mask. You're still supposed to continue your 6-foot distancing, but the stay-at-home order has been lifted. Let me just read part of this. Under this order, Retailers allowed to resume operations on June 4th. Restaurants and bars can open fully on June 8th. Swimming pools, camps for kids. Remember, all of these things will be done with limited capacity. If you're going to go sit down in a restaurant, you're going to have your table 6 feet away from the next table. That means restaurants, we've already seen some that have gone through and started taking out every other table. But those are significant steps, and they apply to the whole state. Gatherings, 10 people or fewer in a single household, but this is significant. 100 people or less can gather outside, and that includes for physical activity or even some type of a class, as long as you maintain that 6-foot social distancing. What this does, in essence, is it changes the paradigm. Before, there were a list of these few things that you could do. Now, the governor and her team have started saying, here are the things you can't do, meaning if we aren't excluding this, then you can go do it with the proviso. You wear a mask, you stay 6 feet apart, and I think significantly the governor is talking about opening up other regions into the next phase, and she just said at the end that she'd like to be fully or nearly fully re-engaged by the middle of this month, and that would be a significant step too. Now, that was the COVID-19 part of it. The protests that we've seen over the weekend were quite another thing. Both she and the lieutenant governor spoke about that. As you pointed out, Emily, there were some pretty heartfelt moments in there, but there's also the reality and the concern that the governor expressed in her Q&A about possible further spread of COVID-19 for people who weren't wearing masks close together, not social distancing. So there is a lot there in today's news conference. The significant COVID news is we have taken that step. The stay-at-home order is no longer in place. Retailers will open. Restaurants will open. On the other side, with protesters and still reeling from the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. This is another issue that the governor has to deal with now as we continue to keep an eye on what happens with those protests as we go forward. Emily?
She definitely mentioned all the things going on in our state right now that we are dealing with. Right now, we're going to go to Heather Walker, who has been in downtown Grand Rapids. Heather, what's going on down there now?
All right, Fulton is shut down right now. We're at Fulton and Ionia, where more protesters are on their way. The crowd has grown. There's roughly around 30 people here standing at the corner of Ionia and Fulton. And if we just kind of loop around here, you'll see what they're facing. They're facing directly at the National Guard and state police. You can see there are city vehicles out here. There are National Guard, Army vehicles out here. There is every law enforcement in our area in the city of Grand Rapids right now. They have been dropped off by the busload. So far, though, everything is peaceful. Police have not had to take any action. Just minutes ago, we actually saw the city manager and the mayor stop by very briefly. I asked the city manager how things were going around the city. He said so far, no problems. And of course, we are hoping that it stays that way. But right now, GRPD, which is directly behind us, is a fortress. And I'm not sure if you can see beyond the barrier here, but there are barriers all around GRPD right now. Law enforcement from state police, from area sheriff's departments, and of course our GRPD are all out here protecting the city, and most of the streets around the city center are shut down. But so far, everything remaining peaceful between police and protesters. Reporting live in downtown Grand Rapids, Heather Walker, News 8.
And Heather, we saw in another location in downtown that the National Guard was boarding up some windows that were not broken. Have you seen any of that activity where you are?
We haven't seen that right now, but there was definitely preparations before 3 o'clock, right around noon and 1 o'clock. City was actually going around and removing trash cans, which of course we saw on Saturday night, all those trash can fires. They were also removing benches at the courthouse. Many businesses have boarded up all of their windows to prevent any more glass breaking. Everyone is preparing for the worst. No one expected what happened Saturday. And so this is the response now. This is what you are seeing. Busloads of law enforcement out here making sure that Saturday night does not happen again in the city of Grand Rapids. And we are all hoping that it does not. Emily?
And Heather, if it's safe, I wonder if you might talk to somebody who is out there right now and ask them what their thoughts are, why they came downtown right now at this time.
One of the protesters?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So there's a couple of protesters here. Hey guys, Wood TV here. Tell me, why did you come out today?
I came out today because innocent black people across the nation are being murdered. And as someone with privilege, I can't sit back and watch that happen. And I'm using my voice to protest against that grave injustice.
And so when you heard the warnings from GRPD, don't come out here, you know, this is, of course, the protest was supposed to be at Van Andel, that, you know, they've not pulled the permits, but you guys said what?
We said we'll come out anyways. If there's no organized protest, we'll stand here and make our own. You know, it matters not how many people you have behind you, but the message you wish to portray. And we're portraying one of peace and one that all Black lives matter. And I think that no matter how many people you have behind you, you should still be committed to that message.
And I just want to point out, as you scan this crowd of protesters, the majority of these protesters are not black. The majority of these protesters are actually white. There's a little bit of disruption because one of the protesters is antagonizing other people here. But beyond that, it is peaceful down here, and we have not seen any movement from police at all. They are standing their ground here. And if anyone would try to come from the outside, I don't know how they're going to get through here because there are barriers throughout the city. There are barriers upon barriers. In addition to that, there are human barriers of law enforcement who are heavily armed and prepared to take action.
And Heather, it appears from what I can see that the crowd has grown since 3 o'clock when we first checked in. Can you give us an idea on numbers there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this started with, okay, so we've got fire taken off. That might be unrelated. Hopefully it's unrelated. But that's the noise that you're hearing as far as the sirens, is the fire department taking off. But when we first arrived here, there were 5 protesters holding signs, peacefully gathering here at the corner here in front of Grand Rapids Brewing Company. And since then, it's grown to about 30. And then since we've been on air, there was another handful of people that joined. In the beginning, it was just a lot of people that are watching, and there's still people that are just kind of standing over here observing what's going to happen. But yeah, the crowd has grown, and I'm not sure if that's, you know, from seeing what's happening on social media, or they decided, okay, we're going to come out here and make our voice heard.
All right, Heather Walker reporting live, and Heather is at Ionia at Fulton. We want to show you live pictures of the Civic Theater, and that's what we spoke of a little bit earlier. You can see the National Guard there is boarding up windows that were not broken. So that is some activity that we're seeing from the National Guard in downtown Grand Rapids right now. That work is going on. Our live team coverage continues on News 8 at 5. We'll see you then.
Rachel Ray.
Hey friends, today we're whipping up some delicious recipes. So, who's hungry?
Pets
Yeah, well, that's what I'm okay. Yeah, all right. That's what they said originally. Yeah. They didn't tell us. Of course not.
It's a crazy city right now. But this march started at the Philadelphia Police Headquarters and now has made its way up Market Street. I'm not a good crowd estimate, but there's a good at least 500 walking west on Market Street, and it looks like there's another gang of protesters ahead of them to join them, maybe just as big. There's another group coming to join them at the 11th and Market. '11th and Market, the protests that demonstrated, looks like they are now sitting down. Protesters are now sitting in the, and more marchers now coming in from the west. All right, coming to you live from Center City, Philadelphia, where the protesters and marchers keep coming from both directions, now lying down, sitting down, chanting on the corner of 11th and Market Streets. So far it is peaceful. These are the guys protecting the demonstration. Letting the demonstrators exercise First Amendment. Look at my Facebook page. All right, guys, the march is now moving west on Market Street. I'm just going to let you guys see how many people are now marching. Hey guys, forgive me, I can't respond to comments right now. We're trying to move. And but this march keeps coming. There's a lot of marchers here. Center City, I'm in the middle of a march, period. City Hall right now. Hi, Facebook followers. Chris O'Connell coming to you live from Center City, Philadelphia, where a massive protest is underway now. Started at Philadelphia Police Headquarters, now ended up stopped at 11th and Market for a brief sit-in, and and continues now. Heading up to City Hall. Let me show you what's happening here. Many businesses are doing this right now. At this point, this is the SEPTA headquarters that they're boarding up right now. Many other businesses doing the same thing. Wells Fargo building on 5th and Market. They had a huge construction crew doing that. And the marchers keep coming in from the east. Just I'm cutting over. All right, again, sorry guys, I keep getting distracted, lots happening, I hope you understand. We're live on Market Street in the middle of a massive protest, hundreds if not more than 1,000, if I had to guess, definitely more than 1,000. Thousands, someone next to me says. Several blocks long. Maybe the helicopter could get a better estimate, but there's a lot of people coming towards Center City and City Hall right now, and police are actually flanked on both sides of them. Peaceful so far, happy to say. We hope that continues. Many of the signs you probably heard, a lot of them, a lot of profanity. Forgive that. We always have to be mindful of who may be listening and whatnot, but we cannot edit and we cannot pause for profanity, so forgive us, but obviously important to document. Coming now to City Hall, another evidence of what's been happening in Center City, the Macy's, where many of you shop, many of you come down for Christmas. These storefronts would be Hey, I know for me, we come down every year to look at these storefronts, but now they are blacked out and boarded up as this demonstration now enters close to the apron of City Hall, wrapping around City Hall on Juniper and Market. And let me see if I can get you a shot.
I have a bad feeling this is going to explode.
Guys, if you're just joining us live, Facebook, Fox 29, Chris O'Connell coming to you from City Hall, right near the apron to City Hall at Market and Juniper. I've been here for at least 10 minutes and the demonstrators just keep marching. I was with them in the beginning and this just hasn't ended. I frankly don't know where all these people came from. There is a large, a diverse group, young, old. What's that?
The American system in a nutshell is entirely too much.
And what you're seeing now is the continuation of this march. As you see, a lot of them with their hands up, a lot of them with signs. a lot of anti-police sentiment, but so far it's been peaceful. They are making their way to the front of City Hall. For those of you still on, march continues around City Hall. Philadelphia police securing the apron. So the march is starting to make its way north. Most of the protest and march has gone north on Broad Street, but a few have peeled off.
I got in a lot of trouble. What my name? You see?
A lot of these cops are. There's just a couple that are bad.
I'm serious. I
I was all the cops down there. I got great conversations with most of these guys in the ring. So I know they're still serving a racist system, but they still suck.
Does anybody need anything? Is anybody hungry? Does anybody need a face mask? Does anybody need anything? Stay energized. Take a couple. Stay here forever. Stay here forever. Keep your energy up. Keep your energy up. Anybody hungry? Anybody need a face mask? Anybody hungry? Anybody need a face mask? You honestly think all of you. I clearly see you for that. I mean, everybody. Let's be honest. Okay, that's a good assessment. I'm sorry.
Fox 29 broadcasting. If you want a platform, I'll give it right to you.
Oh, thank you.
Hey guys, for those of you that are watching right now, I'm going to bring you something. I'm with Fox 29, and I came across what we need more of right now, and that's a dialogue. Seems to be a Philadelphia police officer in front of me. And you are, sir?
Donnell Jones.
Donnell Jones. What were you saying here? What were you talking? Why did you come here?
My reason to come in here was to stop a lot of the violence. On my platform that I got, a lot of people were saying, oh, the rioting, stop the rioting. We need a better way. So I can't talk about a better way if I'm not going to initiate it. So I felt like this was the better way. I know the police are not getting, I'm not going to say adequate training, but I'm going to say adequate community training to interact with the people because they're so violent out here. So my thing is to give them what I'm relaying all the messages back that I'm getting to the police officers so maybe they can take that into their office or into their district and start implementing it. If one thing that I said or me and him talked about get implemented, it makes everything better moving forward. Then the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. My thing is I don't want any more people. I don't want to make a color on it. I don't want any more people getting killed. I don't want no knee on his neck. I don't want no knee on your neck or my neck. That's what I want to eliminate. Maybe I can.
Where are you from?
North Philadelphia.
And you came down here. What are you hoping for now?
A better relationship with us and the officers. Politically wise, better laws that help out the people that's involved in the city. We pay the taxes here. We are involved here. So why aren't things benefiting us? So my thing is to get better policing and better community understanding and also change laws.
Officer, do you mind if I ask you a question about the importance of dialogue? And this is Officer Mazzaro, and how important is this dialogue?
We enjoy talking to people. We enjoy understanding your complaints and concerns. And we try to tell you guys. I mean, I know I will never have the perspective of what some of these people had, just by where I grew up and everything like that. But I want to know their perspective, and I also want them to see our perspective. And I want them to know that, especially in Philadelphia, and I told him, the people I work with, the co-workers of my squad, we take accountability for what we do. We handle our business, but then we make sure we have each other's back and make sure, criminally we don't want to get involved in our affairs. We try to make sure that we keep everything calm and respect the laws. We have to be hard on each other, of course, but there also needs to be a dialogue in that how do we reduce crime and that often socioeconomic issues that we can't control that nobody can control. That's another thing. The importance of dialogue helps us understand their perspective and then understand our perspective.
Well, there you have it.
This is their moment right now, the protesters. They spoke, you know what I mean?
Well, there you have it. Perspective from a Philadelphia police officer. Perspective from your name again, sir?
Donnell Jones.
Donnell Jones from North Philadelphia. I came up to them and they were a dialogue. There are thousands of people walking on North Broad Street right now, and that's a great thing to see. But this was great to see also. Dialogue between officers right here on the front lines. If you see Pennsylvania National Guard, who were called up right behind them. So hopefully we see more of this. We saw a lot of the looting. We saw a lot of pain. But now we're seeing this, a little bit of hope. So I'm glad I stumbled upon that. Guys, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Well, there you got it. Great to see. Little dialogue. At least it's a start, right? Something we haven't seen a little bit in. That protest continues to make its way North Broad Street. I'm going to sign off for now. I got to regroup, get myself some water, and I'll be back, I don't know, soon. Let's keep the peace, guys.